Commander Kim Hyun pressed his palm against the cold metal of the observation window, watching the massive alien warships drift through space like hunting sharks. The Korthak vessels were enormous, each one easily 10 times the size of New Sol Station's largest defense platform. Their dark hulls gleamed with an oily sheen under the light of Kepler 442's twin suns, and strange energy patterns pulsed along their surfaces like veins of liquid fire. 3 months. 3 months since these monsters had appeared at the edge of their solar system, demanding immediate surrender. 3 months of fear, rationing, and watching their neighbors disappear during the daily collection rounds the aliens conducted in the outer settlements. "Commander," Lieutenant Park Ji-hai called from her station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "They're moving again, same pattern as yesterday. The lead destroyer is positioning itself over Sector 7. Hyun nodded grimly. Sector 7 housed the agricultural domes that fed 20,000 colonists. The Korthak had been systematically destroying one food production facility each day, slowly starving the human population into submission. It was psychological warfare at its most cruel. "How many people did we evacuate from that sector?" he asked. "About 300 families, sir, but the Kim family refused to leave their farm. They said 4 generations of their ancestors worked that soil." Hyun closed his eyes. The Kim family, old settlers who had arrived on the first colony ship 40 years ago. They were stubborn, proud people who had turned barren rock into fertile farmland through sheer determination. Now they would die because of that same stubborn pride. The bridge shuddered as another alien scanner beam swept across the station. These daily scans were getting more intense, more invasive. The Korthak were mapping every corridor, every room, every hiding place. They were preparing for something big. "Sir," Lieutenant Choi Min-ho's voice cracked with urgency. "Massive energy," spiked from the Korthak flagship. "They're charging their main weapons." On the main screen, the alien command ship, a twisted spear of black metal nearly 2 kilometers long, began to glow with malevolent energy. Weapon ports along its hull opened like hungry mouths, revealing the hellish orange light of plasma. "Cannons! All hands, brace for impact!" Hyun shouted into the comm system. But the alien ships didn't fire at the station. Instead, they turned their weapons toward the communication array floating in space nearby, humanity's last link to Earth. The plasma beams lanced out like fingers of death, turning the sophisticated relay station into expanding clouds of vaporized "A metal and circuitry, no!" Park Ji-hai gasped, watching the destruction on her sensors. "That was our only way to reach home." Static filled every screen as the communication network died. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and the distant thrum of the station's artificial gravity generators. Then the alien voice filled the air, cold, mechanical, translated by captured human technology. "Humans of, New Sol Station. Your communication with the distant world you call Earth has been severed. Your cries for help echo into empty space. No rescue fleet will come from that insignificant rock you call home." Hyun felt his blood turn to ice. The Korthak commander's words carried the weight of absolute certainty. "Your species builds small colonies on distant worlds and abandons them when danger arrives. We have studied your history. You are scattered, weak, divided. Your Earth government will not risk their precious home fleet for 50,000 settlers on a forgotten world." The alien ships began to move into attack formation, their weapons powering up with an ominous whine that carried through the station's hull. In the distance, Hyun could see the lights of their orbital defense platforms, 6 modest weapon platforms that had been built to fend off pirates and asteroid miners. They looked like toys compared to the Korthak war fleet. "Surrender now," the alien voice continued, "and your deaths will be swift. Your children will be spared to serve as workers in our empire. Resist, and we will make your final hours a symphony of suffering." Lieutenant Choi Min-ho looked up from his station, his young face pale with fear. "Commander, do you really think Earth received our distress signal before they cut us off?" Hyun stared at the alien armada positioning for their final assault. Each ship bristled with weapons that could crack planets. Energy shields shimmered around their hulls like soap bubbles made of pure force. In the 3 months since their arrival, these ships had demonstrated technology that seemed almost magical. Teleportation devices, gravity manipulators, and weapons that could phase through solid matter. But humans had something the Korthak didn't understand. Something that couldn't be measured by sensors or calculated by their war computers. "We have to believe someone heard us," Hyun said quietly, his voice carrying across the silent bridge. "Because if Earth knows we're here, if they know we're fighting, then they'll come. That's what humans do. We don't abandon our own." The alien ships continued their deadly dance in the void, preparing to end 50,000 human lives. But somewhere in the darkness between stars, Hyun allowed himself to hope that Earth was coming. Admiral Lee Dong-wook sat hunched over his desk at 300 hours, sifting through mountains of cosmic interference reports that most officers would have dismissed as space junk. The coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he kept working, his tired eyes scanning wave after wave of garbled transmissions from the outer colonies. Then he saw it, buried beneath layers of solar radiation and quantum static, a transmission fragment. That made his heart skip a beat. The signal was weak, distorted, but 3 words punched through the interference like a hammer blow. "Colony under attack." Lee's hands trembled as he isolated the signal, running it through every filter and enhancement. Protocol the Earth Defense Force possessed. Slowly, agonizingly, more fragments emerged from the static. "New Sol Station, Korthak Empire, 50,000 civilians. Request immediate assistance." The timestamp showed the message was already 3 weeks old. 3 weeks of silence. While those people waited for help that never came, Lee grabbed his secure communicator and called his aide. "Wake up Captain Song Yoon-ji. Tell her to meet me in the Thunder Bay facility immediately. Authorization code Alpha 77. 30 minutes later, Lee stood in the massive hidden hangar built inside the hollowed-out asteroid Ceres. The facility stretched for kilometers in every direction, filled with ships that officially didn't exist. Sleek destroyers hung in zero, gravity next to massive dreadnoughts, their hulls gleaming under the artificial lights. Thousands of technicians and crew members moved between the vessels like busy ants, preparing for a mission that might never come. Until now. Captain Song Yoon-ji arrived, still pulling on her uniform jacket, her short black hair messy from sleep. "Admiral, what's the emergency? Why are we in Thunder Bay?" Lee handed her the decoded transmission. "We have a situation. The Kepler 442 colony is under attack by something called the Korthak Empire. They've been fighting for 3 months. Song's eyes widened as she read the message. "Sir, this is terrible, but shouldn't we notify the Galactic Council? Follow proper diplomatic channels?" "The Council?" Lee laughed bitterly. "They're probably still debating whether humans deserve a seat at the big table. While they argue about protocols, our people are dying." He activated a holographic display showing the secret fleet. 200 ships materialized in the air between them, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and determination. These vessels had been built in secret over the past decade, hidden in asteroid facilities and deep space construction yards that didn't appear on any official records. Operation Thunder was created for exactly this situation, Lee continued. "When humanity's colonies are threatened and nobody else will help, we help ourselves." Song studied the fleet specifications floating before her. Each ship was designed with one purpose: to project Earth's power into the deepest reaches of space. The destroyers were fast and deadly, equipped with particle beam weapons and quantum torpedoes. The cruisers carried enough firepower to level cities, while the massive dreadnoughts could crack moons with their main guns. "Admiral, these ships have never been tested in real combat," Song warned. "The FTL drives are still experimental. We don't even know if they can make the journey to Kepler 442. "Then we'll find out," Lee replied grimly. "How long to prep the fleet for departure?" "Standard preparation would take at least 2 weeks. Safety checks, crew assignments, supply loading." "How long for emergency deployment?" Song hesitated. 12 hours, maybe less. "But sir, the risks are enormous. We'd be pushing every system beyond safe parameters." Lee walked to the observation window, overlooking the hidden fleet. Each ship represented years of planning, billions of credits, and the hopes of every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now those ships would finally serve their purpose. "Captain, I need you to understand something. 20 years ago, I was a lieutenant. on the first colony ship to Proxima Centauri. We were attacked by raiders, lost half our people before a patrol ship happened to find us. I watched families die because help came too late. He turned to face her, his eyes burning with determination. I swore that would never happen again. Every ship in this fleet, every weapon, every piece of technology, it all exists so that no human colony ever has to face the darkness alone. Alarm klaxons began wailing throughout the facility as Lee activated the emergency deployment protocols. The massive hangar doors slowly opened, revealing the star-filled void beyond Ceres. Thousands of crew members rushed to their assigned vessels, their training taking over despite the chaos. "All ships, this is Admiral Lee," his voice echoed through the facility's communication system. "We have a code black situation. Human civilians are under attack by hostile aliens. We depart for Kepler 442 in 6 hours." Captain Song watched the frantic activity around them. "Sir, what if we're too late? What if the colony has already fallen?" Lee climbed into his personal transport, heading for the flagship dreadnought Indomitable. The massive ship was already powering up its engines, casting eerie blue light across the asteroid facility. "Then we make sure the galaxy knows what happens when you attack human civilians," he said. "Either way, those are our people out there, Captain. We don't abandon family." The fleet began to move, hundreds of ships emerging from their hidden berths like predators awakening from hibernation. Each vessel represented humanity's determination to protect their own, no matter the cost or distance. The human fleet tore through hyperspace like arrows shot into hell itself. Inside the cramped bridge of the dreadnought Indomitable, Admiral Lee Dong-wook gripped his command chair as another violent shudder ran through the massive ship. The experimental FTL drives were screaming at frequencies that made the crew's teeth ache, pushing far beyond anything they were designed to handle. "Hull stress at 92% of critical," reported Chief Engineer Nam Ki-tae, sweat beading on his forehead despite the bridge's cold temperature. "Sir, we're literally tearing apart the fabric of space around us. These drives weren't meant for this kind of sustained operation." Lee watched the readouts showing their fleet's condition. 17 ships had already suffered major system failures. The destroyer Meteor had lost its navigation systems and was flying blind, following the fleet's signal like a lost child. The cruiser Thunderstrike was venting atmosphere from a hull breach caused by hyperspace turbulence. "How much further?" Lee asked. 8 more days at this speed, Admiral," came the reply from the navigation officer. "But I'm not sure how many ships will make it." Behind them, Captain Song Yun-ji coordinated damage control across the fleet. Her voice cut through the static-filled communications. "Battleship Fury, you're drifting 2 degrees off course. Correct? Immediately, or you'll collide with the supply convoy." The hyperspace around them wasn't empty darkness like normal space. Here, reality twisted into impossible shapes. Crew members reported seeing phantom lights dancing outside the viewports, and several had to be sedated after claiming they heard voices calling from the swirling energy storms that surrounded their ships. On the medical deck, Dr. Han So-young worked frantically to treat hyperspace sickness, a condition that affected nearly 30% of the crew. "It's the prolonged exposure," she explained to Lee during his daily briefing. "Human brains weren't designed to process the sensory input from hyperspace. Some of the crew are experiencing hallucinations, others complete sensory shutdown. The worst moment came on day 9 when Captain Yoon Jae-ho of the battleship Retribution sent an encrypted message demanding the fleet turn back. "This is suicide, Admiral. We're going to lose half our ships before we even reach the enemy. We should return to Earth and organize a proper rescue mission." Lee's response was broadcast to the entire fleet. "Any captain who wants to turn back is free to do so. But those colonists have been fighting alone for months. Every day we delay means more of our people die. I'd rather arrive with half a fleet than not arrive at all." No ships turned back. Meanwhile, on Kepler 442, Commander Kim Hyun crouched in the ruins of what used to be the colony's main plaza. The Korthak had started their daily execution ritual, forcing the human survivors to watch as they selected 10 random colonists for termination. The alien soldiers were methodical, emotionless, treating human lives like inventory to be reduced. Today's Selection includes the elderly woman from Sector 3 and the young father from the engineering district, announced the Korthak overseer through its mechanical translator. The creature stood 3 meters tall, its insectoid body covered in chitinous armor that gleamed like oil. Multiple eyes tracked the terrified crowd, while its clawed hands selected victims with casual indifference. Hyun felt bile rise in his throat as the 10 chosen colonists were marched to the execution platform. Among them was Mrs. Lee Min-jung, the kindergarten teacher, who had taught half the colony's children how to read. Her crime was refusing to reveal the location of the hidden food caches. "We have to do something," whispered Lieutenant Park Ji-hai, her hand moving toward her sidearm. "Not yet," Hyun replied through gritted teeth. "If we break cover now, they'll kill everyone." The previous night, Hyun's resistance fighters had managed to destroy one of the Korthak supply convoys using improvised explosives made from mining equipment. But the victory had cost them dearly. They lost 12 fighters and most of their remaining ammunition. Their weapons were down to whatever they could scavenge from dead aliens, and those strange energy rifles required power cells they couldn't replicate. After the executions, Hyun led his surviving team back to their hidden base in the abandoned mining tunnels beneath the colony. The underground complex had become home to nearly 300 survivors, including 60 children who hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. Young Cho Soo-bin, barely 8 years old, tugged at Hyun's sleeve. "Commander, when are the Earthships coming?" "My daddy said they would come save us." Hyun knelt down to the child's level, forcing a smile he didn't feel. "Soon, Soo-bin. Earth never forgets its children." But privately, doubt gnawed at him like acid. It had been weeks since their last transmission to Earth. Even if the message had gotten through, even if Earth cared enough to respond, could they really expect a rescue fleet to travel across half the galaxy for one small colony? "Lieutenant." Park Ji-hai found him later that night, staring at their tactical displays showing the Korthak positions. "How much longer can we hold out, Commander?" Hyun studied the maps marked with red indicators showing enemy patrols, weapons emplacements, and execution sites. Their ammunition would last perhaps 3 more days. Food supplies were nearly exhausted. The colony's water recycling system was failing without proper maintenance. "As long as we have to," he replied, the words feeling hollow in his mouth. Outside, the Korthak ships continued their patient orbit, like vultures waiting for the last signs of life to fade. But somewhere in the darkness between stars, humanity's hidden fleet raced toward them, carrying hope and vengeance in equal measure. The fabric of space rippled like disturbed water as the human fleet tore through the barrier between hyperspace and normal reality. 200 sleek ships materialized at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, their hulls scarred and blackened from the brutal journey through dimensions that human minds could barely comprehend. On the bridge of the Korthak flagship Deathbringer, Commander Jextal studied the sensor readings with 4 of his compound eyes, while his other 2 tracked the holographic displays floating around his command throne. The massive insectoid creature clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among his species. "Alert all vessels," Jextal's voice buzzed through the ship's communication system. "The humans have finally arrived. 200 small ships. Against our fleet of 400, their desperation is almost touching." His tactical officer, a smaller Korthak with silvered chitin, gestured toward the sensor display. "Commander, should we deploy our full battle formation?" Jextal's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "For this, send 50 ships to meet them. Let the humans see how outmatched they are before we destroy them. Perhaps they will surrender and spare us the tedium of battle." But something strange was happening at the system's edge. The human ships had stopped their advance and were floating motionless in space, arranged in what looked like random clusters. To Korthak sensors, they appeared, vulnerable, almost defenseless. Then the transformation began. What the aliens had mistaken for individual ships suddenly started moving toward each other with mechanical precision. The smaller vessels weren't separate craft at all. They were components of something much larger. Magnetic clamps engaged, with thunderous clanks that echoed through space, while massive docking arms extended from hidden bays. Admiral Lee Dong-wook watched from the command center of his flagship as the fleet executed the maneuver they had practiced in secret for years. "Initiate Protocol 7, he commanded. Around him 200 modular vessels began combining like pieces of a vast three-dimensional puzzle. Destroyer-class ships locked onto the sides of battle cruisers, their engines combining to create massive propulsion systems. Supply ships transformed into weapon platforms, their cargo holds opening to reveal batteries of particle cannons and missile launchers that had been hidden during the journey. The bridge shuddered as the Indomitable connected with 4 other command vessels, their computer systems linking to create a single massive brain capable of coordinating the entire fleet. Lee felt the ship grow around him as additional hull sections sealed into place, turning his dreadnought into something that belonged in nightmares. "My God," whispered Captain Song Yoon-ji as she watched the transformation through the viewport. "I knew we practiced this, but seeing it happen, where 200 ships had floated moments before, nearly 1,000 massive warships now filled the void. Each combined vessel was a fortress bristling with weapons, their hulls crackling with energy shields that bent starlight into rainbow patterns. The human fleet had revealed its true nature, not a rescue mission, but an armada designed to project Earth's power across the galaxy." On New Seoul Station, Commander Kim Hyun stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. The human fleet that had appeared was beyond anything he had imagined possible. Are those really Earthships?" Lieutenant Park Ji-hee's hands flew over her controls, trying to process what their sensors were telling them. "Sir, I'm reading energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. These ships are using technology we've never seen before." The Korthak commander Zextal was no longer laughing. His tactical displays showed impossible readings, human vessels the size of small moons, weapon signatures that registered off the scale, and energy shields that seemed to violate several laws of physics. "How is this possible?" he hissed to his bridge crew. "Our intelligence report said humans were primitive, limited to small colony ships and basic weapons." His communications officer's voice trembled as he replied, "Commander, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's the human fleet." Admiral Lee's voice cut through space like a blade, transmitted simultaneously to every ship, station, and communication device in the system. The words were calm, measured, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Lee Dong-wook of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have attacked civilians under the protection of Earth. You have murdered innocent people. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare for withdrawal from this system." Jextal's compound eyes bulged with rage. "Impossible! We outnumber them nearly 5 to 1. "Sir," his tactical officer interrupted. "New contacts. More human ships are decloaking throughout the system." The space around Kepler 442 suddenly filled with additional vessels as stealth ships revealed themselves. Massive carriers emerged from behind asteroids, their bays disgorging clouds of fighter craft. Battleships materialized from what had seemed like empty vacuum, their cloaking devices shutting down to reveal hulls covered in weapon batteries. "The human fleet now numbers over 1,500 vessels," the tactical officer reported, his voice barely a whisper. Admiral Lee's voice continued, now carrying a note of cold steel. "Your 60 seconds are up. Since you have chosen to remain, you will now face the consequences of attacking Earth's children. All ships you are authorized to engage. Show them what happens when someone threatens our family." The Korthak commander realized too late that they had fallen into a trap. What had seemed like a desperate rescue mission was actually the most sophisticated military operation his species had ever encountered. The humans hadn't just come to save their colony, they had come to send a message to the entire galaxy. The first human weapons began to charge, their energy signatures painting space with deadly light. Jextal understood that his empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked not just a human colony, but the children of a species that had spent decades preparing for exactly this moment. The battle for Kepler 442 was about to begin, and the humans had brought enough firepower to turn entire worlds to ash. The first human salvo lit up space like a newborn star. Thousands of particle beams lanced across the void, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block. The Korthak flagship Deathbringer shuddered as its shields absorbed the initial impact. energy cascades rippling across its hull like liquid lightning. Commander Jextal screamed orders to his fleet, but the humans had already demonstrated they weren't fighting by conventional rules. Where normal space battles involved ships trading shots across vast distances for hours, the Earth fleet moved with terrifying coordination and speed. The human dreadnought formations split apart like opening flowers, each massive vessel deploying wings of smaller attack craft that swarmed toward the alien ships. These weren't ordinary fighters. They were unmanned drones controlled by advanced AI systems, each one capable of making split-second decisions that would have taken organic pilots precious seconds to process. Evasive maneuvers, Jextal commanded. But his ships were too slow, too predictable. The human drones danced between the Korthak vessels like deadly butterflies, their plasma cannons carving through alien hull plating with surgical precision. They targeted weapon systems, engines, and life support with methodical efficiency. Admiral Lee watched the battle unfold from his command center, his face grim with satisfaction. Target their command ships first, cut off their coordination, and the rest will fall. The massive human battleship Vengeance moved into position above the Korthak flagship, its main guns charging with a sound like thunder. The weapon was a gift from humanity's study of captured alien technology, a gravity cannon that could compress matter into microscopic black holes. Fire, Lee commanded. Space warped around the projectile as it struck the Deathbringer's hull. The alien ship's armor simply ceased to exist, matter collapsing into a pinpoint of infinite density before exploding outward in a burst of pure energy. The flagship broke, apart like a toy, its pieces spinning away into the darkness. Commander Jextal's final transmission cut across all frequencies. "Impossible! We had 400 ships. How did you—" The answer came from Captain Song Yunji as her assault. Cruiser Thunder's Edge tore through a formation of Korthak destroyers. "You studied our history, but you didn't understand it. Humans don't just learn from their mistakes. We prepare for every possible threat." On New Seoul Station, Commander Kim Hyun watched the battle through the observation windows with tears streaming down his face. The human fleet moved like a choreographed dance of destruction, each ship knowing exactly where its companions would be, every weapon fired with perfect timing. Lieutenant Park Ji-hai stood beside him, her voice filled with awe. "Sir, look at Sector 7. The human Marines are already boarding the Korthak occupation ships." Through the tactical displays, they could see streams of human soldiers flowing from boarding shuttles into the alien vessels. These weren't ordinary troops. They wore powered armor that made them look like walking tanks, their weapons designed specifically to counter Korthak technology. The battle turned into a rout within 3 hours. Alien ships that tried to flee found their escape routes blocked by human vessels that had somehow anticipated their movements. Those that attempted to fight were systematically destroyed by weapons that seemed to ignore their shields and armor. By the 5th hour, the surviving Korthak vessels were broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. But Admiral Lee's response was cold and final. "You showed no mercy to our civilians. You will receive none from us." The last Korthak ship died in a ball of superheated plasma as human fighters swarmed over it like angry wasps. The battle for Eden Kepler 442 was over, and not a single alien vessel remained intact. On the station, Kim Hyun heard the sound of docking clamps engaging with the emergency airlocks. The first human Marines through the doors were giants in powered armor, their weapons scanning for threats while medical teams followed behind. Captain Song Yunji removed her helmet, revealing a face that was tired but determined. She looked around at the frightened colonists emerging from their hiding places and smiled. "Sorry we're late, Commander. Traffic was terrible." Kim Hyun laughed despite himself, the sound echoing through the station's corridors for the first time in months. "Captain, I don't think anyone has ever been happier to see traffic delays." As the evacuation began, Admiral Lee prepared his message to the galaxy. The transmission would be broadcast on every frequency, translated into every known language, and repeated until every species in known space had heard it. "This is Admiral Lee Dong-wook of the Earth Defense Fleet, speaking to all civilizations within range of this transmission. Today, the Korthak Empire attacked human civilians on the colony world of Kepler 442. They believed Earth was too distant to care, too weak to respond. The message continued as human ships spread throughout the system, their sensors already scanning for any remaining threats. They were wrong. Earth remembers its children, no matter how far they travel, no matter what dangers they face. Attack our colonies and you attack Earth itself. Threaten our people and we will find you, we will come for you, and we will make you pay. The rescue of Kepler 442 became a legend that spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within months, every species knew the story of how humanity had revealed its true power, how Earth's children were never truly alone in the darkness between stars. Young Cho Soo-bin, the 8-year-old girl who had asked when Earth's ships would come, was among the first to be evacuated to the medical ships. As she looked out the viewport at the massive human fleet surrounding her home, she smiled and whispered, "I knew Daddy was right. Earth never forgets." The galaxy had learned an important lesson that day. Humanity had arrived among the stars, not as conquerors or supplicants, but as protectors of their own. And woe to anyone who threatened the family of Earth. The end.